Hi, this is Ron Gannett again here at beautiful Community Church in Saddlebrook, Arizona. And thank you for joining me again today as we try to investigate reasons why we suffer. As we're going through a theme of walking uphill, we are discovering ways in our Sunday morning services of how we can deal with adversity, how we can understand what is God doing through all the stuff that happens in our lives. You know, today I'd like to talk to you about how God can use your suffering to impact the world around you. You know, you have an audience. You have a family, you have friends, you have neighbors, you have people that you work with. You have a sphere of influence that you are touching every day. You know, C.S. Lewis, one of the greatest writers of my lifetime. In fact, if you ever see a book by C.S. Lewis, I would encourage you to buy it and read it. He refers to suffering and pain as God's megaphone to grab our attention. But you know, as I think about that phrase, I think not only is it a megaphone for us to help us focus on God and what He wants to do in our lives, it's also a megaphone for our audience, for the people that are watching us. The Apostle Paul, tucked in the book of Philippians, the letter that he wrote there, he says in chapter 1, verse 12, he says, "My bonds, my imprisonment, the stuff that has happened to me, has turned out for the progress of the gospel." What does he mean? Well, here's the Apostle Paul imprisoned. If you read chapter 28 of Acts, it'll tell you his situation. But he's probably in a rented quarters under Roman guard. Visitors could come see him. But somehow for almost 3 years in that situation, the gospel is being proclaimed. You'd say, well, how is the gospel being proclaimed when the Apostle Paul is incarcerated? You know, every day he would have a Roman guard with him. And I can imagine the way the conversation would go. The guard would be sitting there. He's tired of dealing with himself and talking to himself. So he turns to his inmate and says, "Well, buddy, what'd they get you for?" He says, "Oh, I'm an apostle of Jesus Christ." He said, "A what?" He said, "Well, let me explain." And soldier after soldier after soldier heard the gospel of Christ. When Paul ends the book of Philippians in chapter 4, the very last verse, he ends with this phrase, "I send you greetings from the household of Caesar." Isn't that amazing? God used the imprisonment of Paul to take the gospel to create a covey of believers in the very household of Caesar, where probably it would never have happened otherwise. You know, is God using some of our suffering to empower the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ to go to other people? To give people the message that they would only hear if they saw it through your suffering or mine? One great example of my generation was Charles Colson of Watergate fame. He was the chief counsel for the President of the United States, and he bragged in the paper that he would run over his grandmother for the President of the United States. Well, after Watergate was over and the facts came out, he realized that he had no answers to the questions of life. He went to a dear man who gave him C.S. Lewis's book, Mere Christianity, to read. And there on a rainy night, sitting in his car all by himself, he lifted his heart and his head to the God of heaven, and he said, "I give myself to you." And my friends, suffering in Colson's life brought him to Christ, and through him started Prison Ministries International that has touched the world. He has written countless books. He was awarded the first Templeton Prize in World Religion, which was given by Prince Philip himself. And when he stood up there that day and received that award, the words that came out of his mouth went something like this. He said, "God used my greatest failure in life to make all of this happen." My friends, you too have an audience. You too have people watching you. What does God want to do in their lives as you suffer? Whenever you put your eyes on yourself, take your eyes off yourself in those bad moments and look at others and say, "God, what can you do through my pain to bless them and to bring them home to you?"